Part 22. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 211. Zhang Yuzi lowered his eyes and said, I think, as long as the prince shows his identity, there are many people who are willing to let the prince. The Lord deliberately came here in disguise and made such a high bet. He definitely doesn't want others to let you go and wants to have fun. Let's be honest, the king's level of chess is already the highest among the people I have ever met. King Kong laughed. What I said, it seems like I'm complimenting this king, but it's actually complimenting yourself. Zhang Yuzi smiled, I just told the truth here. Kong Wang glanced at him, it seems that you are very confident in your chess skills. King Kong narrowed his eyes, there is an old guy in my house who is a famous chess player. Back then, he was the best player in the chess world in the capital, but every time he played chess with me, he either lost to me or narrowly won. I always feel like he does it on purpose every time. It makes this king unable to figure out what level he is. One day I will find an opportunity for you to play a few games with him, and this king will watch. Zhang Yuzi cupped his hands, dare not to obey. King Kong smiled, then it's settled. After a while, this king will ask someone to find you. He got up and straightened his robes and went out. King Kang's bodyguard put a silver note on the table and followed. Zhang Yuzi glanced at Ahu, who came over and took the silver note in his hand and smiled, 20,000 taels. It's an overnight riches. He suddenly lowered his voice and said, why don't you hang him on purpose, and then narrowly win at the end, then he will definitely chase you for a few more games. Can't you win some more money? Zhang Yuzi shook his head, no need. Kong Kong is extremely smart. Do you think he can't see through that trick? Zhang Yuzi raised his foot and walked out, and Ahu followed. The little servant from before was still standing outside. The little servant came over and said with a smile, didn't the guests say they want to play dominoes? They are almost all together. Zhang Yuzi paused for a while, stop playing, come back next time. He glanced at Ahu, Ahu took out a piece of broken silver from his arms and threw it to the servant. The little servant took the silver and waited, and said with a smile, the little one sends the guests out. Zhang Yuzi and Ahu went out and looked back, but no one followed them. Zhang Yuzi specially brought Ahu here because he was afraid that he would not be able to leave if he won the money. Fortunately, this is a really high-end casino, and even the Lord came to play, so he wouldn't do such a rude thing. The two walked for a while, dodged into the alley, changed their clothes and came out. Ahu hugged the burden and walked, whispering, I didn't say I was going to play dominoes before, why didn't I go? It's a big game here. Maybe you can win 10 or 20,000 silver tonight. Zhang Yuzi shook his head, no need, enough money to win. Ahu laughed, there's never enough money. Zhang Yuzi smiled lightly, according to the current standard of living, this money is enough for our family to spend several lifetimes. In the future, I will not and need not come to this kind of place again. Ahu said strangely, why don't you come? I watched it when you were playing cards. With your brain, playing chess and playing dominoes is just picking up money. He followed Linshuo, although he never lacked money, but seeing Zhang Yuyi earn 20,000 taels casually at night, he was inevitably moved. Who thinks that there is too much money, but he doesn't have the ability like Zhang Yuzi. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 212. Zhang Yuzi quickened his pace, it's too easy to make money like this, I don't want to get used to making money this way. Once you get used to making money this way, it's hard to get interested in other things. And if it goes on like this, there are only two results. I become a complete gambler, or I get killed because I win too much. Ahu glanced at Zhang Yuzi. He was only 18 years old. In the face of the temptation of money, he had such a clear understanding and such strong self-control. Such people will definitely be very human in the future. The next day, Zhang Yuzi brought the yellow-toothed man and asked him to help find 1 or 2 good shops and buy land. It is best to have a piece of land with a good pavement. There is no rush, just find it slowly, and come and reply to him when you have it. The yellow tooth hurriedly agreed, determined to make another big business. Gu Yunjiao was too busy during this period of time, so she went to the drug market to buy a donkey skin and came back to make donkey glue. The donkey skin is soaked first, and the water is changed every day. Lu Zhu lay down for more than a day, and the swelling disappeared, and he started to work. Gu Yunjiao takes Zhang Shun and Lu Zhu to pharmaceutical every day. The medicine cabinet was painted 3 times and finally dried. Some of the medicinal herbs that should be concocted have also been concocted, and the medicinal herbs that Gu Yunjiao poured out have also been pulled here. Gu Yunjiao was busy instructing a few people to put the medicine into the drawer, and suddenly patted her head, "It's broken, there is still a big thing to do." Zhang Yuzi was helping her next to him, and he heard the words and asked, "What's the big deal?" Gu Yunjiao frowned and said, "This medicine cabinet has to have a label on it. I don't know the price of these medicinal materials at all, so I can't write it randomly. This is how to do it." Zhang Shun said at this time, "I remember some of the commonly used ones, but I don't remember much." Zhang Yuzi pondered for a moment, "No hurry, I have a solution." Gu Yunjiao looked at him with bright eyes, "You really have a way, what way?" Zhang Yuzi smiled, "You give me half a day, and I will handle this matter for you." Gu Yunjiao still didn't quite believe it, "Really?" Zhang Yuzi nodded and smiled at Gu Yunjiao, "You sharpen the ink, arrange the paper, and wait for me to come back." Gu Yunjiao didn't know why, but she seemed to hear some lingering taste in these words. She put aside the strange feeling and said with a smile, "Then I will wait for you." Zhang Yuzi raised his foot and went out. After half an hour, he came back. Gu Yunjiao really did as he said, set up the pen and paper, sharpened the ink, and was waiting for him. When Zhang Yuzi came back, he sat down at the table without saying a word. Then he picked up the pen and started writing the name and price of the medicine. Gu Yunjiao watched from the side, and the more she looked, the more surprised she became. Finally, she covered her mouth and looked at Zhang Yuzi admiringly. She suddenly wanted to understand how Zhang Yuzi did it. Gu Yunjiao didn't dare to make a sound, for fear of interrupting Zhang Yuzi's thoughts. After writing, Zhang Yuzi's brows gradually wrinkled, he put down his pen, "I'll go out again." This time, he went for almost half an hour. "Come back and continue writing." It was not until the last word was written that he let out a long breath and put down the pen. Gu Yunjiao couldn't help it anymore, she wanted to hold Zhang Yuzi and jump a few times, she knew it was illegal, but she just praised repeatedly, "Sanlang, you are really amazing. How can there be such a powerful person in the world, I really adore you." Zhang Yuzi met Gu Yunjiao's adoring eyes with a smile, and stared at her deeply without blinking. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 213. Zhang Shun ran over at this time, "Hey, have you got the price?" He picked up the densely written pieces of paper on the table, and picked up some of the ones he remembered, all of which were correct. Zhang Shun looked at Zhang Yuzi in surprise, "How did you get this thing? Although the price of each drugstore is not a secret, it will never be given to people casually." Gu Yunjiao pointed at her head, "Sanlang went to other pharmacies to go around and wrote it down." Zhang Shun couldn't believe it, "Impossible, it's only been a while, and I can't remember how many years I worked in the drugstore." Gu Yunjiao and Yorongian smiled and said, "Sanlang will never forget it." Zhang Shun looked at Zhang Yuzi in surprise, "I thought it was a legend, but I didn't expect such a person to exist." Zhang Yuzi waved his hand, it's just that my memory is slightly better than others. He looked at the piece of paper that Gu Yunjiao had cut on the table. Are you using these labels? Gu Yunjiao nodded. Zhang Yuzi picked up the pen again. I'll write. He glanced at Gu Yunjiao and said softly, just help me polish the ink by your side. Okay, okay. Gu Yunjiao nodded again and again. She quickly arranged it. Zhang Shun was responsible for opening the drawer and reporting the name of the medicine. Zhang Yuzi wrote the name and price of the medicine on the label. Once the price tag was written, Lu Zhu took it away, and when it was dry, it was pasted on the drawer. The whole one-stop flow operation. Gu Yunjiao sat next to Zhang Yuzi while reading his writing and grinding ink. After a while, Zhang Yuzi looked at her and said softly, your hands are sore, rest for a while, and then grind them later. Gu Yunjiao said shook her hand, and leaned over to watch Zhang Yuzi write. The hairpins written by Zhang Yuzi are neat and tidy, as if they were printed, and they are really beautiful. Gu Yunjiao was fascinated by his writing. Osman thus came over from the backyard at this time and wanted to ask Gu Yunjiao what to do with the big fish that she bought today, so she entered the store and saw Zhang Yuzi and Gu Yunjiao sitting together. The two were so close that they were almost touching their heads. Then Gu Yunjiao said something, Zhang Yuzi looked at her, and the two smiled at each other. Osman thus jumped in her heart. Seeing that no one was paying attention to her, she hurriedly turned back. She was a visitor, so she naturally understood that there seemed to be some affection between the two. However, they may not even know it themselves. Osman thus didn't dare to tell anyone, she just buried it in her heart. The matter of writing the label was not finished until the next day. Then Gu Yunjiao's customized plaque was delivered. She instructed Zhang Shun and Lu Zhu to hang the plaque on it, and the plaque was covered with a piece of red silk. Couplets are also engraved, and they are also covered with red silk. The preparations for the opening are almost done, and the store has been cleaned up, but there is only one sitting doctor missing. This Gu Yunjiao is not in a hurry, she can't recruit anyone, she can bear it first. The trouble is, she's too young to believe she's a doctor. There is no way to do this, only take it slowly, wait for a long time, cure some patients, and make a name, it will be fine. The opening day was calculated by the Chen family, and it will be tomorrow. The next day, Zhang Shun and Lu Zhu both came early in the morning. The two changed into the work clothes that Gu Yunjiao had made to order at the clothing store, and they were all beige and short brown. Zhang Shun changed his clothes and couldn't help but said, Master, the color of these clothes is too light, and they are not resistant to dirt, so dark colors are better. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 214. Gu Yunjiao smiled, if you can't stand the dirt, you can see it clean. There are two sets of clothes. You wear them alternately. You must wear them clean every day. Since the owner said so, Zhang Shun and Lu Zhu agreed. Today, Gu Yunjiao wore a blue-colored RU skirt. She deliberately wore it to be more mature, so that she could look older and look more calm and reliable. Zhang Yuzi came over and said, it's almost time, I'm going to set off firecrackers. Rokuro and Gu Chuan followed him and ran out to see that he took an incense stick and lit the lead. In the sound of crackling, Gu Yunjiao took a long pole and stabbed the red silk on the plaque. You can see the signboard with gold characters on a black background, with 3 big characters on it, Ren Xin Tang. Then Zhang Yuzi tore off the red silk on the couplet. The next link is, He 11 shelf medicine produces dust. The red silk was only uncovered, and Zhang Yuzi heard someone sneer next to him, fake benevolence and righteousness. If you really want to think so, what kind of pharmacy is there? As soon as Gu Yunjiao turned around, she saw a middle-aged man wearing a brown robe with longevity characters. The middle-aged man is thin, his cheeks are fleshless, and his eyes are shining. Gu Yunjiao looked at him and said nothing. Do business and make money with peace. It's open today, so there's no need to quarrel with people. At this time, Zhang Shun was standing beside him, and he seemed uncomfortable. Zhang Yuzi glanced at the man lightly, and said to Gu Yunjiao, "This pear is not bad, you can tell it's a drug store by looking at it. And it matches the name of the store." The man suddenly chased after Gu Yunjiao and asked, "Little girl, I think it was the plaque you unveiled just now. Could it be that you are the shopkeeper of this pharmacy?" Gu Yunjiao smiled at him, "It's the little girl." When the middle-aged man heard it, he said, "Ha ha, it's so strange. Now the world is so real, anyone dares to open a drugstore, and they are not afraid of eating dead people." Gu Yunjiao thought it would be fine for this person to taunt him, but who knows, he has also started personal attacks. She frowned and was about to refute when Zhang Shun next to her tugged at her sleeve, "Master, this is the shopkeeper's son of the Kylin Hall opposite." Gu Yunjiao suddenly understood that she was here to find fault. It must have been because the two pharmacies were close to each other, for fear of robbing him of his business. Zhang Shun then smiled at shopkeeper's son, "How's the shopkeeper doing recently?" Shopkeeper's son snorted, "Now that you have taken up Jaiji, how can you still have me in your eyes?" He looked up at the plaque and snorted, "You deliberately spread the medicine across from me and poached my buddy. Are you easy to bully when you think of my grandson?" He smiled crookedly at Gu Yunjiao, "Wait and see, I'll see how many days your pharmacy will last." After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and left. Chen Shi was so angry next to him, "What kind of thing is this, or it will open today, I'm afraid it will be unlucky to be noisy, and I won't scold him to death." Gu Yunjiao took Chen Shi and walked in, "Mother, forget it, we don't care about him." She turned her head, "Atai, clean the door." The guys also followed Gu Yunjiao in. Everyone went in and sat for almost half an hour. The store was surprisingly quiet, and there were no customers. Lu Zhu and Zhang Shun were very uneasy. They looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. If this business is not good and the drugstore can't continue, the 1 or 2 silver a month's wages will also be gone. The two of them could not wait to run to the door of the pharmacy to solicit customers. But since ancient times, pharmacies have not solicited customers. You can't just catch anyone on the road, "Guest officer, do you take medicine?" People are sure to beat you up. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 215. Even Lao Ju came out from the back and turned around a few times, and was a little anxious when he saw that there was no business. The owner is generous, he drinks every day, and he also counts on the pharmacy to stay open for a long time. When everyone was restless, a woman came in with a prescription in her hand. Zhang Shun quickly got up, "Does the guest want to take medicine?" The woman handed the recipe to Zhang Shun. Zhang Shun took it, flicked the abacus, and counted it up. If he couldn't remember the price of a few medicines, he shouted, "Pillar, look at the price of keel and oyster." Lu Zhu was about to find the 2 medicines he said, and Zhang Yuzi had already quoted the price. Zhang Shun gave him a thumbs up, playing the abacus very quickly, and then said to the woman, 45 cents for 1 medicine, 225 cents for 5 medicines, can the guests order medicines now? It's the rule to get the medicine first. Just because there are too many poor people these days. The doctor prescribes 10 prescriptions, and he may only have the money for 5 prescriptions. This is to ask first. The woman hesitated for a moment, catch. Lu Zhu quickly spread the paper, and Zhang Shun began to take medicine. Atai copied the formula beside him. The woman said strangely, "Why are you copying my recipe?" Atai explained, "Our Rengzintang is responsible for the patients, and for all medicines taken from us, we must keep a prescription for inspection." The woman stopped talking and looked around at the furnishings in the pharmacy. Zhang Shun and Lu Zhu were still a little unfamiliar with which drawer the medicine to be grabbed was placed in. The two of them searched for a while before they grabbed the medicine. Zhang Shun ordered the same medicine again in front of the woman, facing Fang Ziyi. One is to check by yourself, and the other is to reassure customers. Then Gu Yunjiao said again, Zhang Shun, the fraction of the 5 cents was wiped off by this elder sister. The woman glanced at Gu Yunjiao, not knowing whether it was because she was called elder sister, or because she had spared her 5 cents, her frown slightly loosened. Your shop is not bad, the Kylin Hall diagonally opposite, every time not a penny less. I'll smash your house to get medicine later. Zhang Shun tied the 5 herbs together, and then explained to the woman, there are 3 tails of ginger in this recipe. When you go back to decoction, remember to add it yourself. When the woman left, everyone was a little more excited. After all, it was opened. Then one after another, people came in to get medicine. After a while, a man covering his stomach came in. Do you have a doctor here? Zhang Shun pointed to Gu Yunjiao, here, the doctor is there. The man was about to walk over there when he saw Gu Yunjiao's footsteps. Female doctor? Or a little girl? What are you kidding? Gu Yunjiao didn't speak, she couldn't catch up on seeing a doctor, so if she didn't believe her, don't look at it. The man turned around and left. Zhang Shun sighed and said nothing. Then someone came in from outside. The person wearing a black robe came in and glanced around, and then landed on Zhang Yuzi, who was sitting in the corner reading a book. He walked over and cupped his hands. May I ask if it's Zhang Zioki? Zhang Yuzi put down the book and got up. It's down here. Lai Ren said, our lord invites you to the palace. Zhang Yuzi guessed that it was about playing chess that he said last time. He nodded and explained to Gu Yunjiao, I'll go there. I don't know when I'll be back. If your mother asks you, just tell her. Zhang Yuzi followed the black-clothed guard and got into a carriage. The carriage walked for about a quarter of an hour and arrived at the palace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 216. The car was parked at the side door, the guard let Zhang Yuzi in, and he quickly entered a courtyard. Then the guard announced that Zhang Yuzi was brought into a hall. There were 2 people sitting in the hall, one was King Kong and the other was an old man with grey hair. Said to be an old man, he is not too old and should be in his 50s at most. Zhang Yuzi first met with King Kong, and King Kong pointed at the old man and said, this is Mr. Lu. Zhang Yuzi immediately greeted Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu's eyes were extremely sharp and he glanced at him, are you the one who is very good at chess? One of Zhang Yu cupped his hands, boy dare not. The old man smiled, you don't have to say if you are powerful or not, you will know after you compare it. Come on, the chessboard has been set up, just waiting for you. The old man got up, took off his shoes and went to bed. There was a low table on the couch, and a chessboard and chess basket had already been placed on the low table. Zhang Yuzi also sat down on the side of the collapse, and Mr. Lu waved, this is the first time, my old man will let you first. Zhang Yuzi followed suit. The speed of the 2 of them is very fast, but as there are more and more pieces on the chessboard, the speed of the 2 of them is getting slower and slower. Kong Wang sat beside him and watched without blinking. Mr. Lu's expression became more and more serious, and suddenly said, no, this old man made a wrong move, I have to start again. He picked up the chess piece on his own and put it down again. King Kong laughed beside him, Mr. Lu, how can you regret chess, and you have no regrets? Mr. Lu rolled his eyes at him, then do you know that watching chess is a real gentleman? King Kong choked and looked at Zhang Yuzi. Zhang Yuzi didn't say anything, and after thinking for a while, he settled down again. It didn't take long for Mr. Lu to say again, "Oh, no, 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 my old man's eyes are dazzling, and I just put it in the wrong place." Just as he was about to pick up the chess pieces, Zhang Yuzi reached out his hand to stop him. "There are some things that can't be repeated." Mr. Lu stared at Zhang Yuzi, and Zhang Yuzi looked at him quietly. The two stared at each other for a while, and Mr. Lu was defeated. He let go of his hand. "Forget it, today's young people don't know how to respect the elderly at all." King Kong answered again, "It's mainly because some people are old and disrespectful." Mr. Lu then stretched out his hand to disrupt the chessboard. "I can't, my eyes are blurry today, so I can't see clearly." Kong Wang shook his head. "If you lose, you lose." "I didn't expect Mr. Lu to lose one day." Mr. Lu stared at Kong Wang, and sighed after a while. "It's not my chess skills that I lost, but my brain." He looked at Zhang Yuzi. "The average person looks at 3 moves and 5 moves in chess, and the master looks at 10 moves. He should be able to calculate dozens of moves. Every step I take is in his expectation, and he has already had a plan to deal with it. How can I beat him?" King Kong exclaimed, "What kind of brain is this that you can calculate so many steps?" Mr. Lu said again, "Boy, your apprenticeship is not ordinary, right? I don't know which master you learned to play chess from." Zhang Yuzi lowered his head. "The teacher is gone, it's not good for the boy to mention his old man's name again." Mr. Lu didn't ask any further questions, and chatted about something else. After a while, Zhang Yuzi chatted with them for a few words and then left. When one of Zhang Yu left, Mr. Lu said to King Kong, "This son is very personable, can Wang Ye know the details of him?" "The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jinkui. Chapter 217. Kong Wang nodded. He was originally from Chunlin County. He was born at the age of 10, and became a scholar at the age of 15. When Director Zhao went to Chunlin County to inspect, he greatly admired him and said that he would be a hit in autumn. As a result, when I came to Xiangcheng last year in autumn, it must have been a plot. I couldn't get out of bed due to diarrhea, and I didn't even take the exam. Going back and falling down the stairs again, breaking my leg. Mr. Lu stroked his beard. Mu Xiu will be destroyed by Lin Feng. Although he is smart, he is still too young to know that people's hearts are sinister. He raised his eyebrows. Why didn't the Lord recruit him to his command? A person who is good at chess, is good at strategy, and is good at layout. There is no such talent. In the future, he will definitely be the right-hand man of the prince. King Kong smiled and said, "I have this plan too." "Sir, do you think a post that can enter Yuelu Academy is enough?" Mr. Lu shook his head. "I'm afraid he won't be able to conquer him with a single post. This son is talented and arrogant, and he is not so easy to convince. If the Lord wants to use him, he must have a sincere relationship with him." King Kong laughed. "Mr. Lu is the only person who can truly get along with me." Mr. Lu sighed. "The old man is old, I don't know how many years I can stay with the prince, and the prince should recruit more talents." King Kong was silent for a while. Zhang Yuzi went home just in time for lunch. The shop had to be guarded. Gu Yunjiao brought a bowl of rice and sat in the shop to eat. Chen Shi was afraid that Gu Yunjiao would have no food to eat, so she sent Sanya to deliver food several times. At this moment, in the Kylin Hall diagonally opposite, 2 middle-aged men carried a young man in with the door panel. When you go in, you shout, "Doctor, come quickly, come and save people." Shopkeeper's son was about to go home for dinner when he heard the words and walked over. "What's wrong with him?" A man said eagerly, "He usually has a heartache, and just suddenly fell on the ground and couldn't get up." At this time, Dr. Zhang, the sitting doctor of Kylin Hall, also came over. Seeing that this person's face was already dead gray, and if there was no breath, he quickly waved his hand. "It can't be cured, everyone is like this, hurry up and prepare for the funeral. The man stared. Don't talk nonsense, you didn't even look, why do you say my son is going to die? Hurry up and give him a prescription, or I will beat you to death. Shopkeeper's son also saw that the patient had only one breath left. He rolled his eyes, came over and smiled and said, This old man, our Dr. Zhang from Keilantang has limited medical skills, and he really can't save your son. However, there is a newly opened Ren Xiantang. It is said that there is a genius doctor in it. If you hurry up and take it there, you will definitely be able to save your son. As he said, he walked to the door and pointed in the direction of Rengzintang. Here, see if you don't see it, that's Rengzintang over there. The man heard that there was a genius doctor, and hurriedly greeted another man, and the two raised the door panel and went out again. These two people hurriedly carried people over, and some good things followed. At this time, I saw that the person was carried away again, and another swarm of bees followed to Rengzintang. Guyunjiao had already finished her meal and was feeling a little sleepy, so she planned to take a nap. I saw a lot of people pouring in at the door. Then two men carried a door panel in the middle of the lobby and called out, Where's the doctor? Where's the doctor? Guyunjiao walked over quickly, I'm a doctor, what's wrong with him? A man stared at Guyunjiao, Are you a doctor? The shopkeeper's son of Keilantang said that you have a genius doctor here, is that you? The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 218. Guyunjiao frowned, I'm the doctor here, not a magician. She didn't want to be put on the rack at a young age and couldn't get down. As he was talking, he suddenly heard someone shouting, Oh, this person is out of breath. The man dropped Guyunjiao and rushed over to the young man kneeling on the ground shaking the door desperately, Tomorrow, my tomorrow, wake up tomorrow. Then he turned around and said eagerly, Doctor, please, save my son. Guyunjiao had already come here with the medicine box. Before she got close, she shouted, Everyone around is scattered. Another man quickly helped drive away a few onlookers. Guyunjiao took out the gold needle, dipped it in a boiled cotton ball to disinfect it, and then pierced it at the Baiwei appointment on the top of the patient's head. As she turned the gold needle, she watched the patient, whose lips were purple, looking like a heart attack. She asked the patient's family, Does the patient usually suffer from angina pectoris? The patient's family members nodded quickly, sometimes it hurts. Fang Cai was also heartbroken, and fell to the ground in one fell swoop. Guyunjiao stuck a few more needles on the patient's head, and then began to perform CPR on the patient. She pressed a few times on the patient's chest and called Atai, the heart-saving pills I made a few days ago, hurry up and bring them here. Atai quickly ran to the counter to get the medicine. When the medicine was brought over, Guyunjiao instructed, Open his mouth and pour the medicine into him. Juxin pill was a small one. Atai put the pill into the patient's mouth, and then poured a little water into the mouth of the pot, watching the pill slip into his throat. Guyunjiao didn't stop herself. Once, twice, 3 times, she pressed as if she was not tired. When the heart under her hand finally resumed beating, Guyunjiao breathed a sigh of relief and slumped on the ground. Zhang Yuzi had been standing beside him for a long time, but seeing Guyunjiao sweating on her forehead, she quickly took out a handkerchief and handed it to her. The patient's family members were so excited at this time. The patient's face on the door panel was not as dead gray as before, but gradually turned pale. The onlookers were amazed, I'm alive, my chest is heaving. Oh, this is really, robbing someone from the Lord of Hell. That's right, I just saw that this young man couldn't get up in one breath, and he was gone. I didn't expect to be rescued again. Another person said, I can't see it, this little girl, this doctor is very good at medicine. It's really good. At least it's much stronger than that Dr. Zhang. When he was still angry, Dr. Zhang from the Kylin Hall refused to treat him. Dare to treat the dead, this little doctor is a master of art and bold. At this time, Gu Yunjiao took Zhang Yuzi's handkerchief and wiped it a few times, then stuffed the handkerchief into her arms, stood up, and instructed the patient's family, take the person to that consultation room, and I'll take his pulse. The two men carried the patient into the consultation room, and Gu Yunjiao closed her eyes to take the pulse. After a long time, she released her fingers and said to the patient's family, his problem cannot be cured at once, but he can only take medicine slowly to recuperate, and he will be much better after recuperation. Besides, in a situation like today, he'd better take medicine with him. If he has an attack, taking one can save his life. The family asked, is that the heart-saving pill you gave him just now? Gu Yunjiao nodded, this is Reng Zhentang's unique secret recipe. You can read it later. If you need it, you can buy a bottle to prepare. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jing Kui. Chapter 219. The patient's family did not hesitate. Buy, this medicine must be bought. No amount of money is needed to buy life-saving medicines. Gu Yunjiao came out and prescribed the recipe, and explained to the family, this recipe, it's best to come to you and eat it for a month. If the family has the conditions, I can eat 10 recipes in the next month. If it doesn't work, eat it once every 2 months. After eating for a year, come back here for a follow-up visit. He asked Atai to bring out a bottle of Juxin pills and said, this pill is taken every time you feel uncomfortable and sick, take it quickly. The patient's family was grateful and took the prescription to get the medicine. Zhang Shun calculated and said, the consultation fee is 2 yuan, the rescue fee is 3 yuan, and the heart-saving pill is 1 tael. A total of 860 articles for 10 medicines. The family members said to the man who came with the door panel, second brother, go back and ask your sister-in-law to get the money, and tell her by the way, it means that she is all right, so she can rest assured. The man nodded and went out. It didn't take long for the man to come with the money. Lu Zhu asked casually, does your uncle live near here? The family nodded, I live in the alley behind there. He said with lingering fears, today is really dangerous. If I hadn't met a female doctor like you, my son would be gone. Lu Zhu smiled and said, our doctor's surname is Gu, and our ancestors were imperial doctors. The family members were immediately awe-inspiring, no wonder Dr. Gu is so skilled in medicine at such a young age. After taking the medicine, the family members went in to accompany the patient. The young man's face had completely recovered, but he was still a little pale. After lying down for a while, the young man sat up, Father, I think I'm fine. His father hurriedly said, I'll lie down again and I'll lie down again. The young man lay for almost an hour, got up and said, I'm really fine, Dad, let's go back, I'm hungry. I was just about to eat when I fell ill, and I hadn't eaten lunch yet. His father held the medicine in one hand and carefully helped him out with the other. The young man shook off his father's hand, I'm really fine, I can walk without helping me. Seeing this, Gu Yunjiao went over and explained to the young man, recently, walk slowly, don't do heavy work, don't run, don't jump, go home, take medicine, and take a good rest for a few days. If you feel uncomfortable again, come and find me. The young man and his father thanked Gu Yunjiao a lot before leaving. The second uncle of the young man who came with him also went out with the door panel in between. At this time, the shopkeeper's son of Kylin Hall was humming a little song in the shop. The business has been good for a while, and the store is busy. Just got some free time now. He suddenly glanced at Dr. Zhang, oh, that's not right, why hasn't there been a commotion in Ren Xi and Tang? I didn't hear any noise. He estimated that at this time, the patient should have died a long time ago. If someone died in Rengzentang, the family would always make trouble. Dr. Zhang shook his head. Perhaps they didn't show it over there, but when it is pushed out, people will only breathe a sigh of relief, and no one will take any trouble. Shopkeeper's son got up and walked to the door to take a look. He was about to send his staff to take a look there when he suddenly saw a man come out with the door panel in between. Looking at it again, there are two people walking in front of this person. One of them was carrying two pills in his hand. Wasn't he the one who just came in and called for help? Wasn't the young man beside him the one who had only one breath left? How can that be? Shopkeeper's son hurried out of the door, stopped in front of this man, pointed at the young man and said, "He is not dead. Is he sick? The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jinkui. Chapter 220. The man said angrily, "Isn't this obvious? You can't see such a big living person standing here." Then he said, "But I still want to thank you. If you hadn't told me that Rengzentang has a genius doctor, my son would only be afraid today." The man waved his hand, raised his foot and walked forward. Shopkeeper's son stared at the young man's back for a while, and then saw the man with the door panel coming over. He stepped forward and grabbed him. "The patient you just brought, really let Rengzentang save him." The man put down the door panel. "That's right, the man just walked over by himself. Is this still fake?" Shopkeeper's son reluctantly asked again, "How did that save the life?" The man said, "I got a gold needle, pressed my chest, and took medicine, and I lived." After saying that, he picked up the door and walked away. Shopkeeper's son was puzzled, and went in and said to Dr. Zhang, "That person who was left with only one breath just now asked Rengzentang to save him." Dr. Zhang stood up in shock. "Impossible, that kid's lips are purple, and it looks like he has a heart attack. How can he be saved?" Shopkeeper's son said angrily, "In short, it was rescued. I just saw him walk past the door with my own eyes." Dr. Zhang couldn't hang his face, shook his head, and did not continue the topic. Shopkeeper's son thought about it. Rengzentang even saved the patients who had only one breath left. After that, when Rengzentang's reputation was spread, the patients would run there, and they still had a shitty business. This doesn't work. He got up and walked around the house. After a few turns, Shopkeeper's son walked out of the house. He went out to the door of Rengzentang, pretended to pass by, and glanced inside. In addition to the medicine cabinet, there was another table inside, behind which sat the little girl. In addition, there is a boy of 17 or 18 sitting in the corner reading a book. Another man in a brocade robe wandered around the shop. None of these people look like doctors, he thought as he walked past the door. Spinning again in a while. After turning around, he stood at the door and waved to Zhang Shun, who was inside. Zhang Shun looked at him with an embarrassed look on his face. The old boss called him. It's not good if he doesn't go out, and it's not good if he goes out. At this time, Gu Yunjiao also saw Shopkeeper's son beckoning. She smiled at Zhang Shun and motioned him to just go out. Zhang Shun had to come out of the counter. Running outside the door, he smiled and said to the shopkeeper's son, "The shopkeeper is good, what's the matter?" Shopkeeper's son lowered his voice, "Let me ask you, who is the sitting doctor of Ren Xiantang?" Zhang Shun blinked. "It's our boss. Our boss will see a doctor, and we are also good at concocting medicinal materials." Shopkeeper's son was a little surprised. "Is it her? Will she be a little girl healed?" Then he explained to himself, "Maybe it is some recipe passed down from her family, which is just right for that person's disease." He nodded, affirmed himself, and left. He was going to find out who the doctor in the hall was and dug him out. Now digging people is not enough. This is the girl's own shop. After inquiring about the information, Shopkeeper's son didn't panic anymore. He thought it was a famous doctor, but it turned out to be a little girl, but he was not afraid. Dr. Zhang in his shop, who is 60 this year, with white hair, looks like an old doctor with excellent medical skills. As long as people with long eyes will choose Dr. Zhang. Zhang Shun waited for him to leave, and went in and took the initiative to report to Gu Yunjiao. Shopkeeper's son came to inquire about the news and asked who the doctor was. You must have seen the man just now being rescued.